Alright, it's Friday, April 25th. Let's talk PlayStation. Okay, we got a lot of stuff to cover this week, so let's just jump right into it as opposed to just standing right next to it and standing around doing nothing. Uncharted 4. Is Uncharted 4 in trouble? Now, there's definitely some serious cause for concern, finally. Now, initially, I myself sat back and watched the game director leave, Amy Hennig leave, and say, you know what? I'm going to keep my judgment until the actual, game comes out. And I'm still going to, but there's something going on with this game. So basically, it was confirmed this week that Todd Stashwick, man, the actor in Uncharted 4, has left. He has been recasted in the game. Now, the initial teaser for the game, this is the guy that voiced over that teaser, talking about, oh, you did this to me, I've been in jail for this many years. He did the voiceover. He's been recast. Now, that is definitely a bit alarming because this is to a point where he was definitely in the game. He even would post on Twitter of him in the mocap suit. He's done recordings, voiceovers. He's put some work into the game, and now even Naughty Dog publicly put it out like, yeah, he's in the game. Here's his voice for the trailer. Like, they were full on moving forward, and now he's being recasted, which definitely tells me and many others that the game is, in some way, shape, or form, definitely taking a new direction. Perhaps they were going one way and thinking, you know what, this is not what we want to do, let's go this other way. So they're recasting him, and I guess this definitely would be a big culmination of all the other past things that we've been hearing about, like the game director leaving and Amy Hennig leaving, and there's definitely other people at Naughty Dog that have left, but it wasn't really too serious because those were just some lower-end people. Granted, they were good people, but some of those people were only there for like a year or something. Point being, you got big people leaving on the project. Now you've got an actor that was openly, publicly stated to be in the game, and now he's being recasted. So there's definitely cause for concern. Sony and Naughty Dog are, of course, not saying anything regarding the issue. I don't think they want to bring a lot of attention to the game doing bad or the project having trouble or anything. So, of course, they're not going to talk about that. But let's just, hope for the best, of course. I mean, there's still a good amount of talent at Naughty Dog. Again, I reserve my judgment until the game's actually out, but this is definitely, alarming. This definitely shows that this game is being reworked or retooled or redeveloped in some way, shape, or form. So let's talk about PS4 Firmware 1.7 again. It looks like the Facebook page for PlayStation Greece has leaked that it definitely is April 30th that we should be seeing this firmware, and another leak from that industry insider, TDX, where he originally said, like, oh yeah, there might be MP3 support. Well, now he just straight up said, like, yeah, MP3 support is coming, of course. We know that. But what he's saying is that internally, Sony does have it up and running on the PS4's firmware. He doesn't say 1.7. In fact, he says he doesn't know for sure. But more or less, like, it's up and running, which definitely tells us it should be coming soon, even if it's after 1.7. Again, industry insider, so who knows if he's real or lying his ass off. So this next news story is pretty interesting because we have no clear-cut answer about it, and it's quite odd, of course. But if you don't know already, basically, PS1 and PSP games digitally, not all of them can be put on your Vita, for example. Some are only allowed to be played on a PSP or a PS3. Sometimes you can leave a PSP or PS1 game uninstalled on your PS3 and then transfer it over via the content manager, but there are some games that just are not going to get transferred over. So what happened this past week was that Sony did something. It must have been a glitch, but basically they allowed every game to be transferred to Vita. So you could go to your download list and you could look for games that previously were not possible to be put on your Vita, and you could re-download them. The Crash Bandicoot games, the Spyro games, these games were not in any way, shape, or form able to go to Vita, but this little glitch happened, and then they could be put to Vita, and it was up for a few days, and then now you can't do it. Now it's down again. So now you cannot put these games on your Vita. So it's like, so a lot of people are asking, and they're wondering and speculating, why for a few days were these games available to be put on Vita and then not available? And that's about all we know, really. Sony did not publicly say anything about this whatsoever. They did not announce that you could do this feature. People just on the internet found out about it. And then they did not say anything about fixing the issue, which it wasn't really an issue because people want to put games on their PS Vita. So we really don't know what happened. There's a good amount of speculation going on, like, there could be licensing issues. These games might not be allowed to be purchased from the Vita, for example. You can't put these games on the Vita storefront and license them to be sold on Vita and playable on Vita. But it also raises the question, Sony owns Crash Bandicoot, or they own Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, and so forth. They own the original Spyros on PS1, so why can't they allow those games to be put on? Plus, there's the fact that these games were actually supported. Like, you could port them, like, you could transfer them over, they were playable, so that tells us there weren't any emulation issues. So why did they fix this? Because it wasn't really an issue, because people want these games on their Vita. So I really don't know what happened there. In fact, I have an upcoming video talking about the PlayStation ecosystem, and one of the examples of how I thought it was bad was that, you know, there are some games you just can't transfer to your Vita for some godforsaken reason, and then they fixed it, so I was thinking, now that original point I made in that video isn't, you know, is a moot point, because Sony fixed it. And then they took it away, so I don't know. Moving on to our next news story, Sony has trademarked 2 new games, Entwined and Killstrain. These are listed as video game software, so that's it. They trademarked 2 new games. Now, often at times, these trademarks don't actually come to fruition. Sometimes they just take these names down just to have them, to whenever they're going to use them, you know, later and so forth, kind of like patents. But if you remember this, the Order 1886 was leaked this way. There was a trademark for the Order 1886. You know, these documents were online before the game was officially announced, listed as video game software. And of course, it got officially announced, and we have, you know, we know what the Order 1886 is. So for sure, I think we might actually see these. Sony's got 12 plus developers making exclusive PlayStation games, PlayStation 4 games. So I think we might be seeing the titles of some PS4 exclusives, because we know these games are coming, so these are probably it. As to what the games actually are, I mean, my guess is as good as yours, but Killstrain sounds like it has a little bit of a link to the Siphon Filter series, so that would be my guess, but we're going to have to wait and see on this one. So the new hot rumor on the street is that Beyond Two Souls will be getting a PS4 remaster. There was some portfolio information available online that dictated and showed game code being allocated to a DualShock 4 controller, more or less showing that, you know, the game's source files are prepped for the controller and to be used, and, you know, it's kind of all obvious. So I got a Minecraft update for you guys. If you go to the European PlayStation blog and you look at the post regarding the PS3 retail release for Minecraft, Owen Hill of Mojang replies to a couple people in the comments. What we know right now is that they are aiming for a Q2 or Q3 release for the PS4 and Vita versions. We're in Q2 now. Q3 is not too super far away, so just hang in there. And he said that they are looking into upgrading PS3 worlds to the PS4. That's actually their plan right now. Not confirming it, but they want to, you know, carry over PS3 worlds to PS4. And they're looking into world transfers for the Vita version. And we also know that they are looking into upgrade prices and possibly cross-buy for the Vita version, PS4 version, and, you know, a culmination of all of them, right? So they're looking into it, and that's the timed, you know, what they're aiming for in terms of release. So the PlayStation Now beta, it's still going on, still moving forward. New games were recently added, and they added the options for, you know, rental. Now, of course, it's the private beta where you were invited to it, so people aren't paying for any of this, but you can see the buttons of what you can choose. You can choose a 7-day rental, 14-day rental, and 30-day rental, which is more or less, you know, saying straight up, that's kind of how they're going to do individual purchasing for these games, and that's how you would do it. You can rent the streamed game for those set amount of days, and I would assume different prices. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you so much for talking with me. I'll see you next Friday.